I would even put one of your favorite characters in there, like Ghost Rider. Like, y'all could redo that one.
They could definitely redo that one. Shout out to Nick Cage, though. Shout out to Nicolas Cage, though. I thought he was going to kill it, and he worked with what he had, but it is what it is.
We spent a lot of time in the first half talking about hip hop. Now let's pivot to one of your other passions, which is comic books, right? I was appeared on your podcast, your Marvel podcast. Yeah, where you go knee deep. Look, for any comic book fans that are listening right now, like, this is not Mess podcast is not a surface level comic book podcast. You dive in deep into the comic book world and going over characters. And when you surprised me with one of the writers from Silver Surfer, I just lost.
Yes,
that was really great. So I truly appreciate you doing that. Recently in the news, they talked about how Black Panther 2, not out until 2022. They've made the decision not to recast T'Challa for Black Panther 2. What do you think of that? I mean, I know what the origin story says, but what do you think of that?
I think it's all due respect to the memory of Chadwick Boseman, and a lot of people are, like I said, creatures of habit, and they don't want to see anybody else play the role. But honestly, and I'm not speaking for Chadwick Boseman, but I would think that if he was here and he was not able to do that part, he would not have a problem with someone else doing it. With that being said, I love the direction that I think they're going in. They're going to focus on the city of Wakanda as a whole and the people. And it's going to be interesting because Ryan Coogler, I mean, he's incredible, man. And they need to bring my man Michael B back. Bring him back, I mean, they did the snap. He actually be one of the people that came back.
I mean, they could definitely do it. And I think it probably was maybe a little bit to their surprise that Killmonger became such a fan favorite, to a lot of people. And so that would be one way to approach it. Now, you've been collecting comic books for a long time. How big is your collection now?
Well, I would say 20,000 to 25,000 books. Yeah. Okay. But, it's been a while since, especially when the pandemic hit. A lot of places closed down. So unfortunately, my comic book was one of those. My comic book store where I went was one of those. But I can still get them. I can still get them digitally, but it's not really the same. I had stopped reading the books actually years before that. That comic book shop got shut down because I was actually getting them digitally. So I spent a lot of money at Marvel, a lot of money, double at times. So
right. Well, it's kind of like they paying you back because you got the podcast.
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about from an 8-year-old to 49. I eclipse anything they could pay me right now. They'd have to give me like a contract for like 6 movies to pay me back all the money I spent with Marvel, and I'd do it again.
So what was it that drew you to comic books in the first place?
I think the characters. Any young male at that point in time, father absent and things like that, needed something to identify with. They have identified with the crowd they were with and the things that they did, or they, who knows, became delinquents. Who knows? But for me, the kids, I was always lucky to have great friends that did interesting things, from sports to comic books to MCing. Just lucky that way, I guess. And the books just, what can I say? The stories taught me how to read better, taught me words that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't picked up the books, gave me a moral code that I didn't know I had. And a lot of us that read the books have this inner moral code that we don't even notice, but it kind of pops into the forefront at times, especially when we watch certain movies. We're always vying for the good guy or the villain. And at the end of the day, we just want that happy ending for everything, or for the character that we are placing our focus on at that time. And that's just like life, man. We just want to win at life. So I get it. It's dope.
So you, you and I both were in Luke Cage. You were playing yourself. I was playing myself. So we both have that.
We're in the MCU.
We're in the MC universe, right? We're there. But what comic book character would you love to play in a movie?
Well, I really was pining for Bishop, right? And whoever gets that role, they're gonna freaking kill it, Laz Alonso. Anyway, Um, Adam Brashear is also a character I like. The Blue Marvel has a very interesting story. But as time goes on, I had a conversation with Idris Elba, and there was a rumor going around saying that he was going to play the next James Bond, which I thought was big. You know, in my head, it's like, wow, we about to diversify the James Bond shit. But when I approached him with it, he was more or less like, nah, mate. If anything, I want to create a new character. Bing, hit me in the head. Why not? I mean, Marvel it's such a big universe. Why not create new characters of diversity instead of gender swapping or, you know, whatever it is? Create new characters and introduce them into the MCU and give them as much focus as you would the old characters, or even put them with the old characters to give them a nice start, and we'll work from there. I would love to play a new character that Marvel creates, you know, or DC for that matter. It doesn't really matter to me, as long as I'm adding on to something that makes that young kid 6, 7 years old, like I was, or well, how old was I? When did Star Wars come out? The
Oh,
first
geez.
one,
I think it was 1980,
no,
79, 80. Was it?
77,
Okay.
78, something like
Yeah.
that. I know I was
Yeah.
young and I went to go see it in the movie theater. I lived in the Bronx at the time, and for years I wanted to be a Jedi Knight,
Hmm.
you know, but there weren't any black Jedi Knights, so it was a far-fetched dream. So imagine that young kid that went to go see the Star Wars later and had Sam Jackson in there, and all he wanted to do was be Mace Windu. He's like, I could be a Jedi. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Hmm. My wonderful producers, Brandon and Rich, let me know it was 77 that Star Wars came
I was
out.
right. I was right,
Yeah,
huh?
see, you were right. I was like, was it 7? Because I was trying to think of when I first went to see Star Wars. That's why I was like, how old was I? I just
Yeah.
remember crying because Darth Vader was way too scary for me.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he
Yeah, he
was.
was, especially at that young age. Okay, so what comic book character, or what comic book or character would you most like to see a movie made about?
Ooh, man. Wow. Hmm. Dang. They need to, well, I think they're doing it now. I want them to give the Fantastic Four their just due, because they're a major part of the
I
MCU.
agree.
And a
Yeah.
lot of the way the world works, I know they put it all on Tony Stark's in the MCU, but Reed Richards is nothing to be sneezed at. And not only that, I mean, those are basically like the four elements of the world. You got fire, water, air, and wood, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know which one to be wood, but the air and fire and all that, yeah. But that needs to be done justice. I can't wait. And they've never done Doctor Doom right yet, so I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some ones that got made. I would even put one of your favorite characters in there, like Ghost Rider. Like, y'all could redo that
Yeah.
one. What you
Yeah,
playing?
they could definitely redo that one.
Yeah,
Shout
you
out to
do
Nick
that.
Cage, though. Shout out to
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage, though. I thought he was going to kill it, and he worked with what he had, you know, but it is what it is. It is
it
what it
is what it is. I mean, just like Incredible Hulk, they haven't gotten that movie right yet, right? Haven't gotten it
is.
right yet. I
Close.
was like, I
They gotten
feel like
close. Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
gotten a little closer. I feel like they got close now because they have the guy. And like, I
Yeah.
love Mark Ruffalo as Incredible Hulk, but
Yes.
they just have never been able to get a really good movie. And that's like too big of a character and too major of a character for there not to be a movie
Yeah.
that is like, okay, this is worthy of what a Hulk movie should be.
You are
Um,
right. And Mark Ruffalo, not to cut you off, but Mark Ruffalo definitely has the chops to tackle the Bruce Banner persona, because Bruce is at war with himself on the inside. That's the whole deal about the Hulk. It's like someone who's schizophrenic who all of a sudden switches to another person when they can't handle the truth. I just seen a documentary about that too, but that reminds me so much of that. And I'm sure Mark Ruffalo would do his homework enough to snap on that dime where it's like, he doesn't even need the Hulk makeup or anything. Just show his face, and he can do it without that. Such a great
yeah,
actor, man.
he's really good. Ed Norton's a really good actor. He played the Hulk, and I was just like, man, I just knew that was gonna work. But he was great. But the movie itself, it was just like,
I've never seen Ed Norton do anything twice. Part two,
yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he
So he
keeps it
probably
moving.
won't come back. Let's talk about your acting career. Right now, you're playing Davis McLean on Power Book 2, which returned in early December. I
Yes.
cracked up because a lot of people, a lot of Power fans really hate your character.
Yeah,
Or
they
it's
do.
very, very polarizing.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you that so many, I know he's not supposed to be a good guy, but like, are you surprised by the response to your character?
No, because I'm on the outs, I'm on the inside looking out, so I know, I know he's polarizing at best, but all I can tell the fans is stick around. You never know what can happen, and you're either going to like him more than you already do, or you're going to hate him even more than you already do. But Davis McLean is such a fun character to play because there's so many different layers to this dude. You know what I mean? And right now for me, my favorite parts to do favorite scenes are the courtroom scenes. Not only because, of course, I get a lot of dialogue and I can show my acting chops, but the atmosphere alone, it's like there's no way you cannot be in character when you're in this setting. And Courtney and those guys in that writer's room, man, thank you a lot for making me look so smart.